welcome to Take Time to Create. My name is Linda, and this is where we take time out of our everyday lives to create new and wonderful things. So I'm pretty excited. We have another fabric mixed media today, and I'm excited about that because it's been a hot minute since I've done one of these. So I'm just go step by step on how I do it, and it should be pretty fun. This is a flower, and I'm excited about it, and I'm taking you along for the journey. So yeah, let's get started. So here's the canvas we're going to work on. We're going to do a flower that is a fabric mixed media, and it's been a while since I've done one of these. This is a 10 by 10 canvas, and it's white, and I painted it with Liquitex Basics in the color Mars Black. Any black acrylic paint will do just fine, and I wrapped around the edge a little bit. What's important is you paint the whole surface and you wrap it around a little bit just to the edge. If you want to go all the way down, that's fine, because at the very, very end, when you're all done and everything is dry, you will repaint the edges because gel medium will get on the edges. They just get sloppy. So I just kind of do a quick painting, then at the very, very end, clean up all your edges so it looks super nice. All right, so here is the canvas. So this is my reference photo, and my lights are pretty bright, so the color looks a little off, but I will leave this reference photo in my blog. So if you look at the blog down below, there is a link to my blog, and there'll be a blog post about this canvas, this fabric mixed media, and in that post there will be a copy of this reference photo. Now this is my photo. I took it on a vacation, and you are welcome to use it in your own personal things. Now this photo is not for resale, of course, but it's a photo that you can use for reference if you decide to do this same thing. I'll put this over here. My phone will probably turn off, but that's okay. To start this out, because what I'm doing is I like that it's green and then the bright pink flower. And these fabric mixed medias are really very, very abstract. So I'm using this green. I really like that it's got different shades of green in it. It almost looks leafy. Then this will be the flower. So I like the different colors, and they work very well together. Now I do have really bright lights. Let me see if I can move it. So you can see that these two work really well together. So first thing we're going to do is kind of trim out the fabric. So what I'm going to do, and then this is just the first step of these. Now if you've seen my other videos, you know that I do a lot of extra things on top of it. So I just like to have a variety, and I'm not one just to, leave it as is. So I really enjoy these. All right. So what we're going to do is, this is a 10 by 10. I don't know if I mentioned that earlier. Sorry if I did not. But 10 by 10, I'm going to go a little bit over it. And I don't measure. When I'm doing these, I never measure. Oh, I think there we go. I just kind of go to town, and that's because if I measure and I try to get too precise, it really frustrates me, because I know that none of this is going to be perfect. And I know hiccups will happen, and you just have to really be flexible with these. So I just kind of trim it up a little bit. Okay. And I am going to trim up, make it a little bit more square-ish, because this is just going to be my background. I'm going to use this green for the whole background. I always save my scraps if it's it doesn't have to be super huge, but I do save my scraps. Like for this one, I'll save it. Just like this. Now I like to get my fabric all ready before I start gluing things down, because if you wait, then you'll be dealing with glue hands, and it just gets really messy. So I like to glue it all down all at once. I also had a very good question from somebody, and I really loved the question. She asked, do I wash my fabric first to get the sizing out? And I don't. If you want to wash your fabric, you're more than welcome to, of course. But I figure since we're gluing it all down, I don't think we need to worry about that. So I don't wash it. All right. And it will never be able to come off of it's never coming off of the canvas ever again. So I think the glue just kind of keeps it all together. So I don't. But if you want to wash it, you're more than welcome. So I'm going to cut my pink into strips about this wide. I don't know how wide that is. Here's my scissors. Half a blade. I don't know what it is. Anyway, not really worried about it, but I am going to cut, because we're going to kind of make petals. And we're going to adhere it down. like I said, we're being really flexible with this. It's going to be the impression of a flower. And of course, we're going to paint on top. We're going to add some other mixed media elements. Let's see here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 petals, it looks like. So I've got 3, 4, 5, and I'm going to do one more because I might need something in the middle. Okay. All right. So I have all of these ready to go. Now, next thing we need to do is get our stuff out. So you're going to need gloss gel, and I use Liquitex. I like it. It works really well for me. So gloss gel, and you need gloss heavy gel, and you'll need a palette knife because we're going to take the heavy gel, spread it on. We're going to soak the fabric in the gloss gel, and you definitely need gloves. I have done this project without gloves, and my hands were a gluey mess for a while. I recommend gloves. If you don't want to use gloves, that's fine. But I definitely prefer using gloves. The first step you're going to do is take your palette knife and slop on some heavy gel. This is the heavy. Now I'm just going to do the whole canvas at once. If it was a larger canvas, I would actually break it up into smaller pieces. And I also would recommend that you do all of the fabric part first. So you plan out your canvas and do everything for the fabric first, because it just works better if it's all wet and it all can stick together while it's wet. You can adhere fabric on top when it is dry. It will work just fine, but I'm just telling you what I have learned and how it makes it easier. Okay. It doesn't need to be a super thick layer, but it doesn't, kind of like an in-between layer. You are going to be adding other things. Do you really need this layer? I don't know. I'm sure Liquitex is very good. I am sure just the gloss gel would adhere it down, but I worry, so I want to make sure that it is going to stay, and I'm going to make sure. All right. So now what we're going to do is you take the gloss gel, and I go through buckets of gel. I tell you, actually I buy it in the gallon, the big tubs, and then I scoop out a little bit into the smaller tubs. So it's cheaper to buy it that way, and then I transfer it. Okay. And remember, your fabric has a right side and a wrong side. So you want to make sure you kind of keep track of that. And I am just slapping this on. We want to coat the front, the back, all sides of this, and get this green, the leaves. We want this all coated with the gel. If there's extra on here, we'll wring it out. And don't worry that it's wrinkly, because we want the wrinkles in here. If you're going to use a really heavy fabric like a burlap or something like that, you want to be careful and maybe practice on something before you get to your final canvas to make sure the mediums you're using will work really well. Sometimes the really delicate fabrics like silks and stuff don't work as well either. So you really want to be careful with that as well. So practice first before you try it. I usually use a cotton blend or 100% cotton. That's usually what I use. Sometimes I'll throw in ribbon, which works really well. Sometimes I'll throw in some other things, but usually it is mostly just cotton. The cottons. Okay, we got a big sloppy mess here. Look at this. I love it. Oh my gosh. Okay. If you're an individual who does not like to get messy, this project may not be for you. If you don't mind, I mean, we've got gloves on, so we're not getting that messy. What I do is I kind of line up my edges first. My corners, my edges, everything is a goopy mess. It doesn't really matter. I kind of line it all up like this, line up my edges, and then I go to town wrinkling up in the middle and really adjust things. You have a pretty good working time. It doesn't stop right away. It's not like a paint that it will dry out right away. I've got some dry spots here. You want to make sure it's all wet. It won't dry really quickly. There are some, markers that dry really fast or, other things, but you have some working time with this. So that is very good. And you just kind of set it in here. So that's what I'm going to do for the next few minutes. I'm going to take my time and get it where I want it. Then we'll move on to the flower. So that's what I'm just doing here. I'm just kind of squishing it around, adhering it all down. Yeah, so let me do this because it's really cool. And before I really go to town on this, it is completely up to you how wrinkly you want it to look. So if you really like the really raised up texture, just leave it like that. For me, for this one, I'm going to push it down just a little bit so that the flower has more of an ability to be wrinkly. So anyway, so yeah, it's completely up to you. I do like to make sure my edges are down so that it doesn't kind of pop up or something can get underneath the whole thing. So I do like to really make sure my edges are down. And then just kind of finagle it. Now, this isn't going to be exactly perfect either because I know I need to put the flower on top. So I've got kind of an idea right here, and I'm liking this, and I think I'm going to leave it like this for now. And now we're going to add the flower. We have 5 petals, and I know that there's kind of a right side and wrong side, but the beauty of this fabric is you can't really tell. It's dyed all the way through, and I don't know what this kind of fabric is called. I'm sure there's a name for it. All I know is it's very, very beautiful. And so I know that it's got the color on the inside and the outside. So I'm not going to worry about right side, wrong side. Okay. Cool. So, and we're going to wring out this one because we've got these nice strips. Squish out what you don't need. I'm not exactly sure how this is all going to work, but we will kind of play with it. I may need to cut these in half. Now, if you do need to cut something while you're working, I always like to say this, if you need to cut something, so say it's not working out or, it's too long, like this one might be too long, I might need to cut it in half, use a pair of scissors that is just for this task. I like to call them my glue scissors because they will look gluey. Oh wait, I need to bring that back. Okay. They will look really gluey, they will be gluey, they will be sticky, sticky, sticky. So I like to call them my glue scissors. Here they are. They're terrible. Look at them. My gloves are terrible. Anyway, so, yeah, I'm feeling like we need to kind of trim off. They're not exactly in half, but a little bit. I'm going to kind of do that. When you're working still, save your little bits because you never know. We're just going to kind of play with these. Cool. Just going to stick it in the corner here. It's fine. Now, I'm not going to leave it there because it'll stay forever, but for right now, it's fine. Drying this, and I probably will remind you, and I usually say this in every video, you can dry these with a heat tool. It does take a while. You've got a lot of gel medium in here. Got a lot going on. You can dry these with a heat tool. I would recommend just leaving them overnight. If you have the ability to let them go overnight, just let them sit because I think they dry better. I think it just less likely of things getting damaged, less likely of I just think that it works better and I like it better. So that is my advice to you is just be patient with this and let it dry overnight. Then when you come back the next day or 2 or 3 days later or whenever you come back, it will be really ready to accept paint, to have whatever mixed media elements you want to add on it. Yeah, so that is what I would advise, just to do that. And I'm just kind of letting it go. I've got 5 petals in the photograph. I'm going to try, I'm putting a basic plan where they are. Then we are going to manipulate them. And I think we need to get rid of some of this. And you can always add things, and if you have a seam with your fabric, you can put paint to kind of blend the seam. So it's really, really cool what you can do with this. But anyway, so yeah, let me get the flower finished. It looks kind of like a hot mess right now. Let me get it out of this phase and then, yeah, then we'll be right back. So that's what I'm going to do for the next couple minutes. right, so I've got my little petals. I'm gonna move that over there. And what I'm doing now is, so I've noticed on my reference photo that the petals are not, you know, straight, smooth. There's some, you know, interest and bumps, and, you know, it's not a straight, like, you know, as you draw like a kindergartner, you know, we've got some interest here. So I'm just kind of wiggling it up, taking my leaves and doing it, because once this dries, you will no longer be able to move anything. And what you also want to do, and why you wait to paint the sides, is because you're going to pick it up with your glue hands, and you're going to look at it from different sides, different angles, and see, oh yeah, I should really kind of squish this down, or, you know, puff this little guy up. You're going to want to look at it from different angles and different ways to really see what's going on. And I do like how this is coming, and I like how it's turning out. And yeah, this is where we stop here. And so I'll stop the camera, let this dry overnight, then I'll be back. That way, when it dries too, you can really see how it looks. Now, if you see any big globs, let me lift this up, and you can kind of see like a glob here, kind of smooth it out. It will all dry clear, but you want to kind of smooth out the big globs because you will be able to see a clear glob. So I always recommend that you just take a couple minutes, smooth it all out, smooth out the big globs, make sure you don't have anything really crazy going on. And then let it dry, and then we'll be back and we will finish this one. And yeah, so this is really cool, really fun. There we go. All right, so this is all dry now, and a tip that I do is on the back I write top, so that when it's all dry, because this one you could potentially look at it in all ways, but this is the way I was designing it, so I have the top, I have the word top written on the top, so I know which way to orient it. Loving this. As always with any of these, if you love it just the way it is and you don't want to add more, that's fine. These are completely customizable. You know, sometimes the fabric does flip like this, and I don't ever really mind it because I think it adds a really cool texture. So I just leave it. And it's glued, it's dry, so there's no way you can move it right now, but if it really bothers you, you can paint over it. Let me pull up my reference photo. Okay, here's my reference photo. Here is my painting, and so what I'm going to do now is, you can see that there's, you know, yellow on the inside. Let me zoom in. So, what I'm going to do is add beads and microbeads to the middle. All right, so I'm just going to use heavy gloss gel, and this does dry pretty transparent. It's not 100% transparent, but it's close enough. And I'm just going to kind of stick it in the middle here. And I just have some gold beads and then gold microbeads to kind of fill in the little spaces. Now this doesn't have to be, you know, perfectly centered. Just kind of add some stuff in the middle. There we go. Once you've added some beads just like that, kind of press them in. Now I'm going to add some gold micro beads, and these are metallic micro beads from Recollections. And I'm going to spin that to the gold. And I'm just going to kind of pour them on, and this will just cover up all of the other bits and pieces that are exposed. It'll really help cover up all of the remaining glue. This is always my trick to getting all those little nooks and crannies to make sure everything is covered. Now, this will take a while for it to dry, but I'm going to tap off some of it so I can paint, and then just let the rest of it dry. And I always pour extra because I am going to pour it back into the container. Don't waste this stuff. So I'm just going to lightly press it in. Okay, so it's going to dry and then we'll wipe away more. There are still some loose microbeads, but I'm not going to worry about those because as it dries, we'll figure it all out, and then we'll be able to take a soft brush and brush them all off at the end. All right, so now we're going to actually paint this, and if we look at the reference photo, there are some branches in here and everything, but I don't think I'm going to add those. I'm not sure, but definitely I'm going to add some pink to the flower, and I'm using Rose Shimmer. I'm just going to stick this on here, and I'm just going to put some on my palette. Rose Shimmer, Folk Art Metallic. I like to use metallic paints when it comes to these fabric mixed media because I really like the shimmer and shine, and I use gloss gel, so I just think it looks cool. So that's my preference, and do whatever you like for your preference. This is Garnet Red, Folk Art. If you prefer matte gel and so you don't want the gloss shine, then I would just go for it and just put matte on there. And I have Gunmetal Gray, which I might need to add a little bit of gray. Maybe dull things, not a lot, just put a tiny bit on your palette. I'm going to put some greens on there. I have Festive Green from Deco Art. I have Aquamarine from Folk Art. I'm not sure if I'm going to use this or not, but I might need to mix colors a little bit. So I'm just kind of putting that one on the side. I also have Crystal Green from Deco Art, and this is a bright green. And I have White Pearl, and this is Deco Art, and I might need some white to alter colors a little bit. And this is completely up to you. It is very free form. Okay, I'm going to move my reference photo to the left. Since I'm a righty, I want my palette on the right side. There we go. And I'm just going to kind of just paint a little bit of the darker color. Just go to town. I mean, what I'm doing is I'm highlighting the edges with the darker color, and I'm not painting everything because you want to have the fabric still speak for itself. The fabric has really pretty textures and really pretty colors in it, and we still want the fabric to have its identifying marks. You still want to be able to see what the fabric has to offer. So I'm just lightly putting it on the tops and a little bit here and there. And I know it's really hard to see. Let me raise it up so you can see. So that is what I'm going to be doing. And I'm just going to be using different colors. Now, word to the wise, here we go. Let things dry. If it's starting to get muddy and colors are starting to really combine, that means everything's just too wet. So let it dry, then you can add another layer on top. So that's my advice to you, to let things dry in between as needed. All right, so I have all of the green and the pink on here, and I'm loving it. And when I did tip it over to the side, you can see a little bit of green through the pink, and I think that's just fine. Now, I'm loving this, and you can see that, you know, the paint adds that detail that it just needed. I did shade a little bit darker under here with the greens. I added a little bit of the gray. I am going to add some lighter green more up here because the light's kind of coming this way. I'm going to add a little more pink as well, of the light pink, just to kind of get the light coming from this direction. But I'm also going to add some gold Sahara Gold, and I'm going to put some branches in there. And you can see in my reference photo that there are some tree branches, and I'm just going to add them just a little bit just to kind of get that look in here. You know, get some branches. There we go. So I added some green, and I put some little bit of white with the green, and I was emphasizing coming down this way because this is where the light is coming from. So I've got a little bit lighter on just the tops coming this way. I didn't go lighter this way, so it was always in one direction. And that's how I did the flower too. So you can see that the flower is darker here, but it's lighter on top because the light is coming this way. So I just hit the tops of everything just coming down this way, and that's why when I did the darker I put the shadow under here, and it's not a lot, but it's enough to just give it that little bit of detail. Shows just a little bit of interest, and that is it. I will paint the sides when everything is dry, and then I will put spray sealer on it, but you don't need to see either one of those. But that's it. This is the finished flower mixed media flower fabric, whatever we want to call it, from my reference photo. Once again, this reference photo will be on my blog. You are welcome to use it as a reference photo for anything that you would like to use it for. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Hit that notification bell so you know when I post new videos. I also have 2 Instagrams. You can follow me on Linda's Journey 78 and Take Time to Create. Linda's Journey 78 is just all my personal stuff, and Take Time to Create is all of this stuff, you know, photos of just what I'm doing. I also have Facebook and a blog, and all of the links are in the description box down below. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you guys next time.